Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Jakes, for being here, and appreciate your candidness and honest answers as always. Canadians were promised a fiscal guardrails, including a declining deficit to GDP ratio. Given your estimate of only about 7.5% probability of meeting that target, do these supplementary estimates move us closer to that path or further away? And are the pressures largely structural or temporary?
Thank you for the question. So the numbers that you're seeing in the supplementary estimate C were largely reflected in Budget 2025. So in terms of the spending path of the government spending path and fiscal guardrails, nothing would be substantially changed based upon what was in Budget 2025 and our observations around the probability of the government being able to respect its fiscal anchors. In terms of the structural versus the cyclical components, it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Certainly there are structural components. So when you look out over the next 5 years and you see that even after the output gap, which is a nerdy technical economics term for even when the economy 3 or 4 years from now is firing on all cylinders, everyone who wants a job can get a job and everything's going great, we still have a fairly sizable federal deficit based upon our last outlook and based upon the outlook from the government. So it means that there's a structural deficit. There are cyclical components. So, and the government has highlighted that especially as part of their new economic strategy, the government is doubling down on additional capital investment at this point, which of course they need to borrow the money for. As we see, hopefully that'll be offset to a certain extent as they implement the cuts to the operating budget. So over time, we should see things potentially, hopefully we're going to see things improve.
Well, hope springs eternal, as we all know. But we have to have some concrete measures, structural issues that need to be corrected. And with that in mind, the growth we often see, or it's given to us in Parliament, is that we are the fastest growing economy. And yet the OECD analysis shows weak GDP per capita growth. Banks have indicated that we have been, some studies from the banks have indicated that we have been in a recession in terms of GDP growth over the past 3 to 4 years. Is Canada's revenue growth driven only by population increase, or do we expect some productivity gains? Do you see anything on the horizon that tells you that we might be pulling ourselves out of the population growth scenario as opposed to actual GDP growth?
Yeah, this morning, it's a very pertinent question because this morning we actually published our updated demographic outlook for Canada. And in that publication, to your point, we highlight that effectively population growth in the country probably flat in 2025, probably flat in 2026, going to start growing again at a rate that most people would be familiar with from prior to the pandemic, from 2027 onward. And notwithstanding that, the Canadian economy is continuing to grow. Something I've highlighted in the past is there continues to be productivity growth in the Canadian economy because the Canadian economy are Canadian people, and Canadians work hard, they learn, they work more efficiently and more effectively over time, and we've seen that. You go back over the time series, you look back over the history from StatCan over the past 40 or 50 years, and notwithstanding recessions, trade wars, or other hiccups in the economy and global affairs, the Canadian economy and Canadian workers always come back.
The debt trajectory that we have compared to other OECD countries, are we underperforming, overperforming? What can Canadians expect going forward, especially with the inflationary pressures that we are facing right now? Affordability is a huge issue. You have seniors resorting to having to, shoplift just to feed themselves. Where is all that going?
I'm afraid time is up.